So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at this moment, and welcome to next webinar series or talk shows of organized by ELMARCO. Today's talk will be, the topic is Electrospun Skin Sync Patches. The presenter is Dr. Aparajita Khatri. And I know her, I would say for ages already, because we are closely collaborating for many years now. So Aparajita works for a startup company called Encap Solutions. They are busy in a skincare segment, and actually they developed a unique dermal patches using their proprietary solution from its inception, proprietary electrospinning based SkinSync technology. So this presentation will cover the development journey of Encap Solutions from its inception to the launch of marketing and their controlled release, dissolvable 72-hour patches featuring high efficiency of transfer to skin with minimal waste. So that's the text I have prepared. But I really encourage you to listen this presentation because, as I mentioned before, the skincare and overall the cosmetic application has been a big boom recently with nanofibers. We're really noticing that, and we really hope that it will be very rapidly growing segment at this moment. And yeah, we wish you a pleasant time with this presentation. So please, Aparajita, welcome, and start sharing your screen and start the presentation.
All right. So I guess thank you very much, Katrina, for giving that brief introduction to me, and thanks for inviting me to speak on this platform. I really appreciate the opportunity. And one of the things that I am here presenting Encap Solutions, our company, and I'm going to be talking to you about our skin sync patches and how we progress from concept to the product.
Můžu mluvit?
Just
prezentaci jako nevidím. To nevadí?
Outlining. So just to very briefly get through the outline of my presentation, and I hope to get through it without boring you guys too much. I will be talking about Encap Solutions briefly initially, just introduce you to our history a little bit and where we are at. Then I'll obviously give you an introduction to our wonderful team, our concept, and the rationale that led to that concept. And then I will be covering the SkinSync technology, our proprietary technology that we have developed, its development, its key features, summarizing its key features, and then I'll get into how we designed our patch. And then our final slide would be the products that we have come up with. So to start with, Encap Solutions, we are a natural health company which are based in Australia. And Encap Solutions essentially has arisen out of the ashes of our previous company called Ceramisphere, and which succumbed to the COVID pandemic, unfortunately. But some of us there believed very strongly in our technology and in our ideology, and we weren't ready to give up. So together with Chris Barbe, who is the founder of this company with us, some of the team from Ceramisphere, we reinitiated Encap Solutions in 2022, and we have been operational since then. And our mission is to create new dermal solutions to promote human health and healthy living. And our philosophy is slightly different. It's to where we were at Ceramisphere. We have a firm belief in harnessing the power of nature using advanced science. So we bring the nature and science together to come up with solutions that are amenable to everybody. The technology itself, the seeds of the technology were actually sown about 4 years before the inception of Encap Solutions, which was at Ceramisphere. And since then, we have been working very hard to patent the technology, and we have managed to patent our technology, and it's our proprietary technology now. biodegradable nanofibrous mats, and we have also registered it under SkinSync trademark. We have very well equipped state-of-the-art facilities in Julius Avenue, and it's got everything that we need to enable us to do effective um, mm, um, effective analytical work, all the synthesis stuff, and all the way up to the manufacture, the quality control. We are able to do most of the stuff in our facility. For manufacturing, we now have a certified clean room, which is ISO 718. And now we are focused on the launch of our first natural health product, which is due in August 2025. Before I move on the rest of the thing, I cannot move forward without thanking the team and without acknowledging the contribution of our team. Under the leadership and relentless support of Chris Barbe, the team, this is a collective effort by the whole team. It's not only it's highly skilled, it has a wide-ranging experience, and the team itself um, and the achievements that we have so far are a collective achievement of the team. I can't say enough that how much I appreciate their contribution, and without them, none of this would be possible. Coming to the first slide about the concept and our rationale that led us there. So we are developing high efficiency dermal patches for sustained pain relief, to put it simply. So why did we target pain? Pain is one of the most common condition that people go to the doctor with, and when it continues for more than 3 months, it becomes chronic pain, which is ubiquitous. It is one of the major cause of disability, afflicting about 20% of the world population. And it becomes a problem when it becomes a chronic pain because it then becomes a complex disease. It's actually a very complex problem. There is no single magic bullet to resolve it. In fact, it's been suggested that it's actually a disease itself rather than a symptom that is associated with a disease. In addition to the personal cost, which is the mental well-being and the physical well-being to the person itself, it actually has a societal impact, and it's costing billions of dollars to the healthcare system. You look at the graph on the right-hand side of your presentation, you can see that pain is one of the biggest costs in the healthcare industry. However, it is the least funded, most underfunded modality. As a result, there isn't a lot of work done. There is some ongoing work in developing new drugs and new alternatives to find better treatments for pain, but they are very few and very slow to come up. At this point, there are no new FDA-approved drugs that can target chronic pain. Generally, they are very specialized drugs, and they target some specialized group of patients. Hence, the focus has mostly been in reformulating the traditional drugs and also on improving the delivery so we can get more efficient efficacy out of those drugs. So I just decided to do this slide a bit differently because it's a bit busy, so I thought I'll go bit by bit. So pain and opioid crisis, they are intertwined. There are lots of treatments. Analgesics are generally the mainstay still for the treatment of pain, acute pain as well as chronic pain. And in that, mostly the opioids, which is in that morphine, codeine, methadone, I'm sure most of you are familiar with those names, is considered the most effective option still. However, the problem is created when the acute pain transitions into chronic pain. And there is long-term treatment required. And long-term treatment, long-term opioid usage with chronic pain will lead to potential addiction, tolerance, and then deaths, obviously due to overprescription, misuse, abuse, and accidental overdose. This is what is opioid crisis or opioid use disorder. Hence, because of the prevalence of chronic pain, use of opioids in the treatment of chronic pain, the opioid crisis actually become a global pandemic. According to WHO, addiction, that 60 million people are struggling with addiction in 2021. Deaths close to more than 125,000. US is the most afflicted. So in US alone, there are over 100,000 deaths in 2021, which also translates to about 1,500 people dying every week, which is enormous. Cost to the United States is at about 1.5 trillion dealing with opioid crisis. And that was in 2020, which was well after measures were put in place to actually deal with the crisis. There were guidelines from the CDC in US to tackle the problem. And one of these guidelines, they led to severe underprescription of the opiates. The prescribers completely stopped prescribing. It led to a huge gap in the patient care for the pain management of the people who were actually legitimate users. And that gap needed to be filled. And what ended up happening was that some of them ended up going to illegitimate or illicit drug use sources for that. So what happened as a result, the deaths are still on the rise in US, even though the pandemic, the opioid crisis was at its peak in 2011, but we're still getting the rise in deaths in US. It's about 28% rise in opioid-related deaths. And these are generally almost always related to the chronic pain, most of it. So there is an urgent and unmet need for effective alternatives and adjunct therapies, and that's what we identified. So why did we focus on patches as a way of mode of delivery? Obviously, I mean, transdermal route is not the mainstay, but most of the times, all the medication that's given, the traditional medication is through the oral route or through the parenteral route, which is just through injections. Transdermal route has its attractiveness because the drug is absorbed through the skin, and it avoids system toxicity. That means it also avoids the gastrointestinal issues that you often face with oral drugs. And most importantly, it avoids the metabolism of the drug by the liver and losing about over 70 to 80% of it through the metabolism of liver. And so that in the end improves bioavailability. So that's the reason for transdermal or dermal approach. But most importantly, patches are non-invasive, and so you can have a sustained effect. So you don't have to, the drug continues to be released in your system at a certain pace, at a certain rate, and you get ongoing treatment. As a result, there is better patient compliance, it's patient-friendly approach, and particularly I see a huge benefit for those who can't swallow, for example, elderly or cancer patients or children. And this is a really attractive mode of delivery especially for pain relief in consumers and also otherwise. As you can see, it's a $6 billion business. And you can see the examples down there, Lidoderm, EMLA, fentanyl. People are familiar with these patches, and they are really popular amongst people who are trying to treat pain for pain relief. However, despite the progress, the promise of the transdermal patches, there are issues. There is waste. There has been efforts to improve it, but we often get 50 to 95% of the drug is still discarded in a pain relief patch after use. It is it's a problem because it's non-economical for precious drugs. And also there is a big problem when we're trying to dispose of the used patches, when we are using control drug, for example, for a duragesic patch. So it's a huge environmental and public safety issue. It can go to non-intended targets, like children could just eat it, or dogs, or it could be something that could be accidental overdose. It could lead to somebody stealing the patches off you and extracting it for their misuse, for example. So it's a huge issue. And irritation is often there with prolonged contact of the patch with the skin, generally swelling, itchiness, and redness. Especially in case of Lidoderm, for example, you cannot apply the patch for more than 12 hours because beyond that, it actually causes huge irritation to the skin. So we decided we are going to focus on developing high efficiency patches for overall pain management. So in parallel, considering what do we want to target, what sort of drug do we want to deliver, and as we have gone through a few years in this field, and we see that there is a shift towards natural remedies, with all the issues with the traditional medication, and also the opioid crisis. More and more consumers are going towards natural remedies for their treatment, and in that, plant-based phytocannabinoids have really attracted attention. Um, Going back, it's a familiar drug. It goes back thousands of years. And it's also the most used drug according to World Drug Report in 2023. So because there is this interest in plant-based over a decade or so ago, there has been a renewed drive towards the use of phytocannabinoids for treatment of chronic and neurological pain, which has further escalated in light of the opioid crisis. Cannabidiol, there are a huge range of cannabinoids available, but of the two major ones, cannabidiol CBD and tetrahydrocannabinol, offers a viable and potential. They are the most explored, and they are the ones which are better known, and they offer indeed. There's a lot of preclinical data generated with both, and they appear to offer the most viable and potentially effective alternative for pain relief. A lot of cannabis drugs have been already released, which are approved for use in US and in other countries. And also in light of all the consumer data, the economic data, and also more and more countries are now legalizing medicinal cannabis. As a result, there is a big boom it's becoming more and more mainstream. There is a big boom in the use of prescription of cannabinoids to treat pain, and including a wide variety of symptoms such as epilepsy and PTSD. And a couple of drugs listed there, like Sativex and Epidiolex. Epidiolex is a pure CBD isolate, which is used for treatment of children's epilepsy, rare form. And Sativex is a combination of CBD and THC, which is used for treatment of a wide variety of symptoms, including pain. It's despite the stigma that is still attached to cannabinoid, despite the restrictions, because it's not fully open, and despite, and we still don't have very conclusive clinical data, it is still a thriving, booming business, sitting at about 48 billion as we speak. So we focused on CBD for pain management. So we decided we were going to make CBD patches. Main reason, it's non-euphoric, easy for us to launch, and also because its anti-inflammatory potential is proven, and it has. In addition to that, we think it is ideal for pain management because it has a multi-pronged efficacy. For example, it can treat. It has an efficacy against anxiety. It's known to help with your sleep disorders, for general well-being. Indeed, there is extensive. There is the consumer demand for CBD-based products, and most of them want it for pain relief. About 60% of the consumers, and this is data not only from US, from Australia, from rest of the world. So there are loads and loads of anecdotal data that shows the consumer demand, and obviously then the market is doing extremely well. So on the back of that, there is deep clinical interest also has been generated in developing CBD as a medicinal product, and its safety has already been proven at the doses it has been tested in the clinic. Epidiolex is one of the drugs which is FDA approved for treatment of children. And it's given at reasonably high doses at about goes up to 50 20 milligrams per kilogram a day. And the worst kind of adverse effects are like just dizziness, nausea, and tiredness. So in fact, it's been said that um, the traditional drugs that are given to treat that epilepsy has got worse side effects than CBD itself. But that's just talking about epilepsy. But for pain relief and others, so far, most of the clinical trials have shown that it's safe to use at the dosage that has been tested. Again, chronic use of CBD still needs to be assessed and needs to be seriously looked at. More and more trials are happening, and a lot of them are getting into phase 3 and 4, which is like the later stages of the clinical trial. For those of you who are not aware, that means that already the CBD itself is showing efficacy, it's showing some degree and safety, and phase 4 trial actually means that its actually efficacy is proven. There are about 66 pain relief trials undergoing as we speak at today's date, and out of which 21 are for chronic pain, and 7 of these trials are in phase 3. Also, one of the things that CBD is being explored for as an adjunct or to take the edge of the opioid disorder and as an alternative. And there are 30 trials which are actually exploring cannabidiol as we speak, and 6 of them are in phase 3 and 4. So this gives you some hope, and this gives you this shows that there is promise in this approach. For delivery, oral and oromucosal are the most explored routes. However, bioavailability through these routes is low, averaging at about 6%, but it is variable depending on if you've eaten food, if you have not eaten food, on other factors. Transdermal, however, there isn't a lot of clinical data on transdermal, but there is clinical data to show that the CBD actually goes through your skin into your system. But bioavailability has been reported up to 40% in the preclinical studies when 2 types of systems have been compared. Looking at the transdermal topicals, there are no CBD transmedicinal patches as we speak. However, only wellness patches are available in the market, in which US dominates. Obviously, there are patches in EU as well. Generally, the problems with them, we feel they are not defined, scientifically defined. They are not as well characterized in terms of their drug load and permeation properties. That delivery itself is not very efficient in our experience as well. And obviously, it's an expensive medicine. Disposal issues are there if there's so much of waste. Global CBD patch market, as we speak, despite all of that, is sitting at about 500 million. And there is ongoing demand for that. People really love them. So we come to our solution that we combine the anti-inflammatory potential of CBD with our high efficiency dermal delivery technology to boost the CBD bioavailability. So we decided to develop CBD patches that can minimize the drug waste, improve the efficiency, and improve the efficacy. So now coming to our SkinSync technology, which is our proprietary technology, and the trademark kind of shows in the background over there. I'm just going to give you in the next 2-3 slides a bit of a description about the technology itself. So the concept is to encapsulate hydrophobic and hydrophilic small drug molecules inside nanofibrous network of polymeric fibers to produce dissolvable homogeneous films or mats with consistent drug loading. We can customize our formulations and our processes to achieve the required dose consistently, and to also tailor the behavior, release behavior, or permeation behavior accordingly. We have chosen needle-free electrospinning, obviously from ELMARCO, to produce the polymeric network for the obvious reason, the most obvious reason, it works with our system. But for us, the attractive point was also that efficiency of the production is really high, and it's also scalable and easily scalable because of the modular nature of ELMARCO's industrial lines. And thirdly, it's also amenable to the pharmaceutical. It suits the pharmaceutical world. The scope, as we see it today, is in dermal and topical delivery, in cosmeceutical industry, and also in wound healing, which particularly interests me. Manufacture of the mats. So we make them. I'm not going to go into the details of how electrospinning works and all that. I'm sure most of the people on this platform know. So we essentially mix the polymeric solutions, hydrophilic polymers mainly, with our active, and we deposit the fibers on the collector, the substrate. In this case, you can see it's a brown paper, siliconized brown paper substrate when the polymers are subjected to high electric potential. We make homogeneous nanofibrous mats, and they're produced in the form of rolls, and these rolls are then transported into patches by our partners in either Europe or in US. The production of the patch, once it goes to them, our partners then do the punching to the design or the size that we agree to. And an adhesive layer is chosen mainly with the emphasis on hypoallergenic nature. And the backing layer, so the way the patch is designed is adhesive layer at the back, followed by the backing layer. On top of that is the nanofibrous mat, which is in direct contact with your skin with application of the moisture. Under the occlusion that is provided by our backing layer, the mats actually release the active in a sustained manner during the course of application. It's a versatile platform. We have managed to encapsulate lidocaine, which is more hydrophilic, fentanyl hydrophobic, CBD even more hydrophobic, into our patches, into our mats. And we have been able to do it consistently, and we have been able to control the drug levels. And also, all of these systems, although to different levels, they consistently show higher efficiency than the commercial patches. So there are the graphs shown in the bottom are actually France cell studies. For lidocaine, we actually use the human skin. For fentanyl and CBD, we used human mimics and stratum skin to look at the transfer of the active across the membrane into the receiving buffer. And with lidocaine, we get up to 30 times better efficiency. Fentanyl 2 to 3 times, CBD 3 to 50 times, depending on which type of patch we are testing it against. So finally, coming to our current product, which is SkinSync CBD patch. And in the next few slides, I'll be showing you data that supports its characteristic features. So first thing we looked at is bioavailability. Can we improve the bioavailability? And for that, we looked at whether CBD, how it changes after incorporation into the nanofibers by XRD. And it actually amorphizes it. CBD is amorphous. As you can see, when you compare the nanofibrous mat against the CBD isolate, which is in green, and also crystalline, you can see the amorphous nature of the CBD in the nanofibrous mat. So that's a good sign. That means increased solubility, and which should translate into high bioavailability when we do apply it into the in vivo scenario. We can control the release. We can work on the formulations. We can change them. And here we actually show 4 different mats with different formulations, which have different dissolution behaviors. And as you can see that we actually found that the dissolution correlated with the release of the active. Faster the dissolution, faster the release. So we can control the formulation to control the release rates. Also, does the nanofiber structure help with the release from the mats? So we compared it against the CBD in nanofibers, which is our mats, to CBD in a casted polymer gel with the same composition. And as you can see, over the period of 3 hours, the release from mats is way more superior. It's faster and better. So definitely high surface area of the nanofibers has led to the faster release. Importantly, there is complete transfer of the skin, of the residue to the skin, the active to the skin. You apply the mat to moistened skin, and you hold it down for a minute, and you take the brown backing off, all of your mat is transferred to your skin, transferring all of your API within minutes. We did the experiment. The graph below actually shows that we have got 4 different mats with different compositions, and all of them consistently showed most of the CBD was transferred to the skin, and backing layer had nothing left on it. And here is a YouTube. In the interest of time, I'm not gonna show you the YouTube, but there is a link there, or you can just go to the YouTube and type in Encap Solution, and you should be able to see the zero waste uh, video, which will show you exactly what we mean here. Again, to reiterate, that efficiency of the CBD mats, we tested various formulations against series of commercial patches, which were obviously not the medicinal patches. And as you can see, the first graph shows you on the left, shows you the permeation behavior in a Franz cell scenario, and where it shows the release of CBD across the synthetic membrane over a period of 24 hours. And you can see the patches, our patches, SkinSync patches, have done far better than the commercial patches in terms of efficiency of release. When you look at analyze the data at 24 hours, we can see that about 70% of the CBD has actually been released by the ES patches, while only 30% is released by the commercial patches, and that too is very variable. So efficiency of the CBD mats has been shown, and this is just, we are just showing you an example, but we have seen this over and over again. In parallel to all this work, we have been also focusing on the design of our patch prototype. So starting from generation 1 all the way to generation 4. Generation 1 was actually inspired by EMLA patch from Adex Pharma. I don't know how many, some of you might be familiar. It's a lidocaine patch to numb the skin for procedures, minor procedures. We just wanted to test that, can we make a patch out of this system? And that was a yes, but obviously we needed to change the design. And so from then we went to generation 2 and generation 3, mainly looking at selections of adhesives with hypoallergenic properties, the right kind of adhesives, also to improve the applicability, maybe even monitoring. And finally, we came to generation 4, which is the final design, which has got improved application and wearability. The design was focused to get 72-hour application, to improve, to make sure that there is ease of application. The adhesive was the best kind of hypoallergenic adhesive that could last for 72 hours without causing any irritation. And we have also dermatologically tested our active layer with human repeat insult patch test using 50 humans, and our actives layer is dermatologically safe. So to very quickly summarize the SkinSync technology, the key features. It's a versatile technology. We have only tried 3 at the moment, but we can do more. Lidocaine, fentanyl, and CBD, so we can encapsulate a range of drugs with a range of hydrophobicity. We can customize the process and formulations. We can increase the bioavailability by morphization of the drug. It's highly efficient because of the high surface area of the nanofibrous network. And that means that we need much lower loading to achieve the required delivery. It's a zero waste patch. All of the drug is transferred to the moist skin within minutes, and there is no waste in the used patch. That means safe disposal. Biodegradable, almost just all the ingredients, the composition in the patch and the mat are safe for human use. And it's scalable to the industrial scale, as I said. Manufacturing, we have been streamlining it. Like I said, just to very quickly repeat, we have constructed a clean room with support from our industry grant, and it's certified. We have obtained ISO 9001 certification for manufacturing, so the standard of quality, make sure. And also we are operating under GMP-like conditions. And I have started the process of obtaining GMP license for launch of the medicinal cannabis product, where we want to head next. This is our product, beautiful product. We have a range of 3 natural health hemp patches, which contain CBD fortified hemp seed oil. They all contain unique blends of essential oils for different skin sensations and therapeutic relief. Each patch can be applied for 72 hours, and it contains approximately 15 milligrams of CBD. And this is being commercialized under the brand name of SkinSync patches, and you can go to our site and learn a lot more about them if you're interested. The launch is planned for August of 2025. So we have reached our first goal post, and we are really looking forward to the future. I would like to just say here, thanks to all our partners. Without them, partners who have been there from the day one and partners we have accumulated as we have gone. And we couldn't have done this without them. Especially ELMARCO has been with us. I want to special thanks to ELMARCO. They've been with us from the day the idea was conceived. And their support through all of this is much, much appreciated. Also would like to thank our advisory panel, which is people from all walks of the field. We have advisors with deep expertise in cannabis industry, in natural health industry, and in the pharmaceutical industry. I'd like to leave you with this quote, and I'll thank you all for your attention. And this quote pretty much symbolizes our core value. And yes, I'll welcome any questions that come my way. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Aparajita, for a very nice and interesting talk. Before we go on, please, if you have any questions, I kindly ask you to fill them in the Q&A session, which will be answered very soon. Still, before we go to that question part, I like to remind some facts about ELMARCO, which I haven't done at the beginning. So ELMARCO is, of course, a global leader of supplying the industrial scale technology for making nanofibers. And as been mentioned, also in the application of skincare and cosmetics becoming now a big or important tool for making the nanofibers in a very high and efficient way. So of course, since Encap Solution is working now on a pilot scale, let's say production, so they can make maybe, I don't know, hundreds of patches in very short time. When we scale up, I believe it's the number will significantly increase to maybe thousands of such patches in very, very short time. So I think the big power of the technology that we are introducing, or we are continuously, introducing to the market and to a different application, the biggest benefit is that you can make very homogeneous, uniform nanofiber layer in very high, efficient, and uniform and fast way. So that's the message. Just so sort of wrap up the ELMARCO, let's say, business. And of course, we are supporting, all startup companies or people with the new ideas that would like to commercialize the product. And as been shown, Encapsulation is doing great. They really went through this whole pathway, from the very beginning, initial research, up to the prototyping, actually the product, and has been shown there currently in the market or having a nice wrap up. So all these, I'm sure it takes a lot of effort, but with the equipment that we are supplying, I think it's a little bit easier. So now we can jump directly to the questions. So I'm going to read them, and please, Aparajita, you can go and answer. So there's a question: what is the main material you use for your patch?
Oh, I wish I could tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's confidential. So, but I'm sure a lot of people can make a guess. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe to add this question, going back to what you mentioned about the composition of such a patch. You say you've been, of course, you do the electrospun membrane on some supportive layer, which in your case is the siliconized brown paper, and so the application on the skin is the way that after you apply the patch, the paper is removed. So what happened exactly with the rest of the let's say, membrane is completely dissolved in the skin, or because you
Yeah.
mentioned it's completely, biodegradable and no waste. So could you maybe point or maybe talk about details about that? What happened with the rest of the membrane, which actually stays on the skin for 72
Yeah.
hours?
Actually, maybe I could, if I go back to that slide, I could show you that YouTube. If click on the link. Um,
Mhm.
sorry. Um, uh-oh.
Yeah,
Just wait one minute.
we see that.
I'll just go to this one here. See if I can show, and that will help me explain. Okay, so I'm
Yep.
just gonna, yeah, just try and see. Okay, I have to move this out. It's not really working. Is it working?
Maybe if you play with no full screen sharing, if you share just slides, then
Yeah,
maybe it's playable.
I'll
Yeah,
do
in
that.
that
Okay,
mode.
let's do that. Um, it's working. Let's see. Right. Okay, it's not working
Mhm.
for some reason. All right, no worries. Essentially what happens is that, I mean, that is just a demonstration of how it works. So in this video, we actually take just the mat with the brown paper backing, and we just spray a little bit of moisture on our skin, and we put the mat on top, and then it just kind of, you just hold it in place, and for a little while move the brown paper away, and you can actually see in that moisture that the mat starts to dissolve on the moisture. But in the real scenario, when you actually apply it in the form of a patch, we are not going to take the brown paper. This was just to demonstrate that it transfers to the
Okay.
skin. Okay.
Mhm.
In the actual scenario, when we are looking at a patch, the patch will keep the occlusion in. There will be a degree of occlusion in the patch. And it's not just the brown paper, we are using other substrates as well. And under occlusion, we expect the skin surface fluids, for example, sweat and oil, to be retained, and that will continue to act on the active layer and keep it dissolved state, and it will slowly release it into the skin over a period of time.
Okay, thank you, thank you. We have another question. So, how do you deal, and it's actually very interesting for maybe other applications as well. So, how do you deal with the regulatory affairs like FDA, MDR, and etc.? So, could you give some words on
At
that?
the moment, we are not dealing with them. No, that's a very good question, actually. Like you say, even FDA and TGA in Australia, they themselves don't have clarity on where they want to put this, especially when it comes to CBD products and cannabis. After that, there is no clear guidance, really. FDA is starting to do it, but as we all know, it's a very um, like I don't know, like a yo-yo. This king, the regulatory space is still developing. I feel like it's not keeping pace with the consumer demand and the way CBD market is going, or the so for us to actually, and that's one of the reasons why we've gone for the natural health product, because it's it kind of it's possible for us to at least launch a product in US in the states where states are allowing this product. We don't have any THC in our product, so we want to launch it in the states where it's acceptable, it's legal. So that's how we are handling it. But we do realize that as it's becoming more and more clear, there is attention now on the regulatory side of things, but um, it's still very vague. There is no clear guidance. So we are keeping a close eye on it, but we are eventually heading towards a medicinal product, which we want to do. And for that, we are doing all the right things. For example, in Australia, if we want to launch a medicinal product, TGA has found a way of doing it. We can do it through the SAS pathway, which is a prescriber's pathway. So if your product is made to GMP guidelines, you can take it to a prescriber, and if they have the ability to apply to TGA and get approval to dispense that medicine to the patients as they see fit.
Mhm.
So that's the pathway we are planning to take in Australia, and hopefully get some validation and some data and some observational data, and then move on to the clinical trials, which I'm sure will be required ultimately for the
Mhm,
next
mhm. So there
medicine.
are
Yeah.
apparently maybe different rules applicable in Australia, maybe Europe and US,
Yeah.
right, or North America,
Yeah.
and maybe
Yeah.
the CBD from the natural perspective is maybe
Yeah.
easy drug to go with, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
It's euphoric, and it has got less problems associated with it than, for example, THC CBD combination would be. For a company like ours, that's unsustainable at this point. So yeah, so that was our strategic move.
Perfect. So the question, and again, I'm afraid you won't be able to answer it. So what is the material to be electrospun actually, or you use it for the electrospinning? Yeah. Uh, so
Yes. That's
yeah, yeah.
confidential. I'm sorry, I can't go into too much details of that.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Mhm.
maybe.
But the question is synthetic polymer or biopolymer. So I suppose the biopolymer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, because of the biodegradability.
Yeah.
Uh, and the question is related to that is synthetic polymer do consider for the health issues with most of the synthetic do consider the health issue with most of the synthetic polymers. So if you would select any other synthetic polymer, do you see that as an issue for it to be maybe FDA approved or whatever?
Um,
Because I think some of the synthetic polymers are FDA approved as well. Yeah, that's not the.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think we will see a problem with that. So as long as it's biodegradable or degradable, and synthetic polymers are approved for human use for topical applications and transdermal applications. So yes, we would consider it. Yeah.
Okay. Next question, and I really like it. It's related to the process speed, or basically about the production, let's say throughput. So, if you can share how thick your spinning material is, I mean, you can tell it in micrometers or whatever. If you measure the
Uh,
area weight, which is much more precise, and how long the spinning process takes, because I suppose you are still not making, really like production. I still call your let's
yeah,
say work as a development stage or kind of
yeah,
pilot scale production. Yeah.
yeah.
So if you can comment on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it is definitely pilot stage production. We are using your NS lab for this work. So as you know, we are limited by the amount of material that we can put it at any given time, but we have figured out a way of making one continuous roll of about 10 meters in a day. So we managed to
10
make
meters a day. 10 meters.
10 meters a day. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the thickness, I mean, I can give it to you in GSM actually. I don't know if the number comes to my mind. But we do get about 30 GSM.
30
Uh,
GSM. So,
yeah.
so this is actually what comes out from your research. This is the thickness that is needed for the drug to be encapsulated, or can you go to even lower thicknesses in the future, maybe?
You can. I think it just we have found in our work that the GSM of the thing directly correlates with the CBD loading. So
Mhm.
essentially, we control it, and we can control the loading of CBD in it. So depending on what we want in the final product, so we can go to lower GSM. But I think this seems to be the ideal kind of thickness. It's easier to manage and handle as well. So
Mhm.
we have been sticking to roughly around 30 GSM plus minus two sort of range at this point. Yeah, that works the best for us with our current requirements. But
Mhm.
we have managed to get much higher GSMs up to 100 as well with our system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question. So, can you combine the CBD with other active ingredients like wound healing agents in the same patch? And I guess yes.
I believe it's possible. I believe
Yeah.
it's possible. I think we have tried it in the past, but I really don't see any reason why we can't. But yeah, we would have to try it first and see how the whole interaction works. But definitely can. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Another question: how long an effective usable lifetime? How long lasts how long is the lifetime basically of the product? So
of
how
the
long
fruit.
maybe you can
Um,
store it, if I understood the
yeah.
question well?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we are actually, as we speak, we are doing some stability studies on the product as well as on the mats. Um, but so I don't, I guess I don't have any official data to give you, but I can say that from our experience, because we have got mats stored for like long period of time, which we still analyze. And on that, so it's not a structured study, but up to a year at room temperature, I think we should be able to store in that in aluminum foil, in that dark conditions, and obviously, yeah,
mhm, mhm.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Still question related to some secretive information from your side, and the question is whether you can give us at least the soluble product. What is the soluble product? Wouldn't the soluble polymer be required to be listed in INCL, which I'm not sure I'm aware what it is, or its equivalents? Do you read that
I'm not
question?
sure. What's the question again? I
So,
mean,
with the soluble polymer, I mean, the polymer that you use for constructing the mass would be
yeah.
required to be listed in INLC or its equivalent. So I suppose in some,
What is INLC? I'm sorry,
yeah,
I don't know what
I'm
that
not sure it either. It's maybe some like the list of suitable polymers to be used for pharma, let's say, I
is.
guess, or
Yeah.
to be.
Okay. Um. Again, like you say, I don't think I can answer that question.
Yeah.
But the polymers that we are using are approved for pharmaceutical applications.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, perfect, perfect. So the next question. So does the electrospinning process influence the activity of the substance? It means, do you observe that during the electrospinning, I can imagine that there is some evaporation taking place, but how could you describe that process to keeping actually the active substance, which is in your case the CBD, in
Yeah.
position of in the nanofiber structure? So do you see
Yeah.
that an
So
issue with that?
absolutely, that's a good question. So what is the impact of the process on the activity or functionality of the active that we put in there? Is that the question, if I understand it correctly?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we obviously that was one of the things that we looked at first up, and we test the raw material, and so we do analysis with HPLC. We look at the peaks, and we can also do LCMS. We have done, and you compare the profile of the drug in the electrospinning mix, and then you compare it with what you extract out of the mat, and we find that there is no difference in the peak profile of the CBD through the whole
Mm-hmm.
process. So
Okay.
whatever conditions we are using, it does not impact negatively on the CBD structure, at least. And functionality, obviously, we haven't done function testing, if you like, in terms of activity. We have only done release studies. And so, yeah, once we get into that, the functionality for CBD is only looking at pain relief. So it's a bit difficult to assess
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
video.
Thank you. So again, back to the composition of your material. Is so the general question: are those all ingredients? I mean, including the polymer and obviously the solvent and all everything what you put in the mats. Are the ingredients is listed in the cosmetic product, or is there any list that you can select what polymer is suitable and to be used in cosmetic, or is there any um,
Um,
restriction with that?
I think most of them would probably be approved okay for if they're okay for pharma, then they should be okay for cosmetics, I would think.
Yes.
Um, haven't we haven't actually gone to the list, so to speak, but where before we do the selection of the polymers for our work, we do look at their status and whether they are okay for our purposes. So yes, one of the things that we definitely look at is if they're approved for human use under
Mm-hmm.
transdermal conditions. So, and also look at the percentages and concentrations that are actually acceptable by the
Mm-hmm.
regulator. Yeah.
Thank you. Um, Another question is related. Maybe we already talked about it, but you mentioned the no waste, right? So people are, of course, it's very catchy word, yeah, because how you can manage no waste, yeah. So the
Yeah,
question is related. So how would the hospital deals with the disposal? So it means there will be no, they will be not need to deal with the procedure in case, for example, of fentanyl patches.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
that.
So yeah, if there is literally of all of what you put into the patch is used up, obviously we haven't done in vivo studies and preclinical studies with fentanyl, but from what the studies there, we've done some in vivo studies with lidocaine, and across the human skin, in vitro permeation studies across the human skin, and in that we find that almost all of the, like about 95 to 97% of lidocaine gets permeated across. But that doesn't mean that this is going to translate. But yes, we expect that all of what we put into the patch would get used up by the system, will get absorbed by the system, and the patch that's remaining, we should have close to nothing left in it. So when it comes to hospitals and disposal issues, they're a lot less. But again, we need to prove it in a clinical and a preclinical scenario.
Mhm, mhm.
Mm.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I guess we are nearly at the end. Maybe just to wrap up the whole session, if you can point out just maybe one or two things which were the most difficult that you had to deal with during your development. I mean, starting from really the scratch, the idea and the research, going to the the prototyping, actually the having something in your hand which you can apply. So what was the most difficult for you, as you can mention?
I think we were, I guess we came into, we when we started the company, we came in with a quite a bit of know-how already. So we
Mhm.
kind of were quite clear on where we wanted to go with the company. Uh, but we also, I think the biggest hurdle, as for most startups, is the funding and the time. I would say those are our two biggest challenges. Aligning everything to happen in that limited time that we have, with the limited funds that you have, and
Yeah.
still managing to motivate the team. Uh, I think
Mhm.
those are the three main things I would say were the hardest for us. Not hard work is not hard, but aligning things, aligning everything so we meet our goals, which means internal elements, external elements, everything that you need to come together at the right time, was the hardest thing, because
Mhm. Mhm.
everything
Thank
goes to
you.
plan. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we will motivate certainly more people by listening to your talk, and then have more ideas, so that more people are starting to work in area of skincare, cosmetics, and then those applications. And at the end, I like to see many products like that in the market, which I think it has a really really bright future. So by that, I would like to thank you, or the audience, and you, especially Aparajita, for this very nice talk. And we definitely will share that information through our website, and we will talk about that application more widely now. And thank you again very much, and hope everybody we see again in the next ELMARCO webinar, which gonna be organized, I guess, in September, or maybe somewhere during the summer, maybe not, but right after summer ends, then we'll come back with a new webinar series. So thank you very much again, and have a great day.
Thanks a lot, Katrina and Carolina and Elmarco, for giving us this opportunity to present our technology on this platform. And thanks to all the listeners. Um, Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.